Hello and welcome to another episode of the Golden Boots podcast. This is your host, Jorge Gonzalez. Our podcast is all about soccer, all things soccer. We love soccer. Our podcast is brought to you by our channel, Top Bin 90. Today we have very special guests. I am super excited. We have UNC Charlotte royalty around us. We've got Charlotte FC player, and today we have Brandt and Rebecca Bronico. Guys, how are you?
We're doing great, Thanks for
well.
having us on.
No,
Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you guys here too. I mean, everyone's wearing their Charlotte FC stuff, so
Gotta represent.
everybody got the memo.
Hey, we love Charlotte, man.
Nice. What's round two of Charlotte like now? Because, I mean, before you guys were in college, now you're kind of like in an adult version of Charlotte, right?
Yeah, I would say more just like we kind of stayed around university a lot of the time just because,
Okay.
we're in college, trying to ball on a budget. It's just like trying to find deals. I don't know. Like, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, we would go down or uptown a little bit, but I feel like now it's like a whole, like we keep saying that like it's like we're back, but it also feels different because we're in such a different environment. Like now we're in the city and we like are living on our own. Like we're married. We're like 4 years ago. It was a whole different story.
Yeah, I like the way you put it, adult Charlotte. That's good. That's good.
That's how I feel too. I mean, I'm 27 now, and I'm like, okay, like life doesn't seem like it was a couple years ago.
Right,
Yeah, 'cause
yeah.
I'm older.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about yourselves. I mean, obviously we know that you played for Charlotte FC, third player to sign, and both of you guys went to UNC Charlotte. So kind of tell us your beginnings, where you're from, how you guys kind of fell in love with the sport.
Do you want to go first?
You go ahead.
All right. So obviously I'm Rebecca. I'm from Mandeville, Louisiana. It's right across the lake from New Orleans, so that's where most people would know it. But how I fell in love with the sport is actually kind of similar to Brandt's story. I have two older siblings, and they always played soccer, and I wanted to be like them. I would wear like my sundress to church with my cleats, and I'm like, Mom, like I want to play. Like this is it. And she's like, okay, when you're 5, like you have to be 5 to like sign up. And so I turned 5. She signs me up for soccer. I go to training. I love it. I'm like, or I go to practice. I mean, I'm 5.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
She
I
already
love
had the
this.
mindset,
Yeah.
training at 5.
I was like, I love this sport. This is great. And then the first game comes, and I get on the field, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I was like, I hate this. Like, I just felt like all the parents were staring at me and they were judging me. I cried the whole game. After the game, I was like, Mom, I want to quit. Like, this is not for me. Like, I thought it was. Absolutely not. And I remember I'm 5 years old and we're in the van, and she's like, Rebecca, I did not raise a quitter. If you quit right now, you're going to quit in life. You're going to quit in your job. I'm like,
At 5.
I'm 5. Like, I'm like, okay. And she's like, you're sticking out for the whole season. So I did the whole season, cried every game, hated it. And then the very last game, I like went out there with everything, like scored 5 goals. I was like, oh, this is great. Like, it was great. And then it came to the next season. My mom's like, you want to sign up? I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I don't want to play soccer. So I sat out that season and watched my brother and my sister play. And it was great from the sidelines. I tried basketball, and that was a fail. And then the next season came, and she's like, I'm signing them up. Do you want to play? And I'm like, only if you coach me. And my mom was like, what? And so she actually coached me until I was U12. And then the rest is history. And then that's kind of how I fell in love with the sport. And then, the sport's giving me so much. This guy right here. So.
I love it. How about you, Brandt?
Yeah, actually very similar to Rebecca's.
So you cried for a whole year?
Yeah, I did.
Really?
Although I didn't have 2 siblings ahead of me. I was the oldest sibling. So
Okay.
I'm sure my younger brother was looking at me like, what is he doing? Like, I don't want to play soccer now, But yeah, my parents signed me up. I cried and sat on the bench my whole first year.
Okay.
And they asked me if I wanted to play again, and I said, yeah.
Okay.
But the next year was fine. I just went out there, I played, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I tried out for a club called the Jamestown Jammers.
Okay.
When I was 8 years old, and I made that team. I guess
Your first professional contract then.
my something like that. But yeah, he's like a lifetime friend of mine now. His dad actually coached the team, and we actually became friends on that team. And ever since then, I just loved running around and kicking a ball.
Okay.
Obviously it's a little more deliberate now, but
Yeah.
this in its simplest form, that's what I enjoyed the most. So I put all the other sports on hold and now playing for Charlotte FC.
Nice.
So,
That's awesome. I want to talk a little bit too about like the high school teams that you guys played in, because you guys played for some successful teams. I was kind of looking at you were a state champion twice, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And I read a stat about you scoring a goal like 2 minutes before the game was over to take you guys to the state finals.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't win the state finals that year, but yes.
Nice. What was that pressure like? I mean, I feel like I would be a little bit like, oh, snap, like I got to score this to make it happen. How was that?
It was good. I mean, for high school, I loved high school. I went to this school called St. Scholastic Academy, and it was an all-girls school. But it was amazing. My freshman year, I actually played with my sister. She was a senior. And so that was awesome to be able to do that. And that year, we won the state championship.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I feel like in high school, like that, I kind of feel like how Brandt feels now, but like that's how it was. Like I just had to do it. Like that was like part of my job. That was like what I was there for on the team, to like make the goals like when it counted. And so like when it did, it was exciting. And I mean, it got us to the finals. Of course, we didn't win that year and whatever, but it was good. I mean, high school was amazing. It was fun.
Nice.
So.
How about you, Brandt? Tell us about those championships.
I mean, yeah, high school soccer, they don't really have like a big picking that they can take players from.
Yeah.
There's not like as big of a pool as in like club or like academy. So you would have games where you could score like literally 4 goals. I think I was like fortunate enough to play with my brother my senior year of high school.
Okay.
And, they kind of like just penned us as like the Bronico show. There was literally one game where I had 4 goals and my brother Brady had 4 assists. So, me and Brady we were just, doing our thing on the field. And obviously, it's so much fun, playing with family. And I'm sure Rebecca felt the same way playing with her older sister. It means so much more to you. And, I just feel like you're family.
Yeah.
It's like how many people get this opportunity to go out there and win titles with their significant others and play competitive with them. So that was like the most valuable thing to me, I think, in high school, let alone like the stats and the achievements. Like regardless of that, I think playing, like just be able to play with him and enjoying my time with him on the field, that was like something really special to me.
I love that. That's really cool, actually. I mean, a lot of people don't get to say that. It's like you guys were kind of destined to be together. Like, your stories are so similar. I feel like when you guys were getting to know each other, you're like, you know what? I did that too. Oh, I played with my...
Yeah. Something like that.
Nice. Tell us how UNC Charlotte came about for you guys.
Oh, well, for me, I mean, growing up in Louisiana, like, it wasn't always like, it's not a known like soccer state. Like when you think of North Carolina, at least for me at that time when I was looking in colleges, like the Carolinas, like that's where you go if you want to be great as a women's soccer player. Like you need to go to North Carolina. So North Carolina was always kind of on my radar. There's definitely other schools, but it was like, I want to get to North Carolina. And I think I even started going to like the Charlotte camps at like my freshman or sophomore year.
Okay.
And so I'm like, and then once I stepped on campus, like, of course, like, I went to go there for, like, soccer. I'm like, I'm in North Carolina. Like, this is it. But then once you step on their campus, I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was a very easy decision for Charlotte. But, yeah, definitely don't regret any of it.
Yeah, I think I second that. Like, just being in North Carolina, growing up here, just seeing how quality of the soccer is at these schools. Pretty much for me, it was down to, so Chapel Hill just played UNC Charlotte in the final.
Yeah.
And the next year, like I had to make a decision on whether I had an offer from Chapel Hill and I had an offer from Charlotte. And, just going on those campuses and like seeing how you're treated by the coaching staff and the people there. I mean, you had Oz on.
Yeah.
You know how personable Oz is and
100%.
welcoming he is. And I don't know if you've had the opportunity to meet Kevin Langen yet.
Not yet.
But, he's a top class guy, and he really, he has a great culture, a great environment, and you just kind of have this, gut feeling when you know, like, something like that.
That's good.
And I was like, you know what? Like, even though everybody's like, Chapel Hill, go Chapel, I'm like, nah, I'm going to go to Charlotte.
Nice.
And so I
Love
was
it.
like, I was like, you know what? Like, Charlotte, this is the place for me. And, obviously I'm extremely happy with my decision. Played with some great players. I had still talk to my coaches today, still talk to a lot of my teammates. Like, it's just a great environment. And I mean, the facilities, state of the art.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't see why everybody doesn't go to Charlotte. You know, after spending 4 years there. And obviously, you know, met Rebecca there. So, you know,
It's a double win, huh?
I was gonna say, you know, it was just
Exactly.
destined to be. And those things always have a way of working themselves out. So definitely blessed, you know, to end up at UNC Charlotte.
Yeah, I love that too because I mean, you made a decision because I mean, when you're younger too, like I feel like we're more influenced by like our friends and like we're not as mature as when you get a little bit older. And it would have been so easy for you to choose UNC over Charlotte, right? Because I mean, like their program theoretically is better, right? But I think it's important to know yourself as well and know what's going to be a best fit for you. You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And like I was just explaining, like that's exactly how I felt. You know, I was like, it's like pretty much just you got to ask yourself, you know, what do I want? You know, what do I think is best for me? Like you said, and after going, you know, being on Charlotte's campus and seeing how they treated me and, you know, looking at the soccer, I was like, you know, this is for me. And
Love that.
great decision.
That's cool. So you're talking about like the personability aspect of how the coaches treat you guys. Like, what are some other things that UNC Charlotte did that you feel like, because they have a phenomenal program. You know, I mean, they've made that championship final in 2011. We've got great players that coming out of there. Like obviously you've played at Chicago and now you're playing here. So like, what are some other things that you've seen in their program that's like, wow, like more people should come here?
Yeah, I think for me, like I went over like the culture and the environment, and just like how they prepare you to be a professional soccer player. Like if you want to do that, you know, they emphasize, you know, training on your own, doing extra. You know, they're always there for you if you want to go out and train. And even on the mental health side of things, they always had a mental health coach there for us in preseason to work on mental strength. Like I said, the practice field, the stadium field, I mean, it's a beautiful surface. They take a lot of pride in that. The gym, I mean, the programs they put you on, like, I mean, it's everything that you need to succeed. It's pretty much what they give you.
It's that gold standard, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
Hey, it's the gold standard, you know? And I'm just, I'm like, how do people like not realize this? You know, like I said, how does not everybody not want to come here? Like you have everything at your disposal if you really want to like truly become a professional, you know? So I think for me, like I really couldn't have asked for like anything else. There's some things like the mental health coach, I didn't even think of that. And they were like, yeah, you need this. And after we got it, I was like, yeah, you're right. I need this. And that kind of helps like form like, you know, the whole grind set, you know, thing that I,
that's all you. Yeah.
It kind of like, that I like because, you know, the mind, you know, she would know more than anybody. It's like so important to how you perform just day-to-day life, you know, especially on the soccer field, you know, how you perform, how you get along with your teammates, and stuff like that. So I think, I mean, Charlotte gives you everything and more, you know, I mean, I can't say enough good things about the school and about the program. I mean, they have I majored in accounting there. Not that I really wanted to like, but they have a great business school there. You know, the Bell College of Business is great. You know, if you want to talk about the school side, I'm just rambling about the soccer.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, the school side, great opportunities there as well.
Nice. How about for you, Rebecca?
I mean, I think Brandt said it perfectly, but I completely agree with him on that. I think the coaches, I'm glad you brought up the mental health side of it because my senior year when we won conference, we actually had, I mean, you have the access to it already being on campus and being a student, but we actually had a sports psychologist come with us, and he would meet with us, I think on a monthly basis, and then he traveled to some of our games with us, and that was our first year that we did that he actually came down to the locker room with us. Like I said, we always had access to it, but being a part of the team with us, and I don't want to like say that was a big part of it, but we also did win the conference that year. And so just being able to tie like the whole like mental aspect of it to also like the coaching aspect of like what you're getting like athletically and everything. I think Charlotte, like they know what they're doing. I mean, obviously the women's were just in the championship, obviously didn't go as planned, but I feel like we're seeing them in the championship a lot more ever since I graduated and also with us winning it. So, I mean, I think Charlotte is definitely headed in the right direction, even though they already were, but continuing, yeah.
I love that, especially nowadays. I mean, like, I feel like 10 years prior, like, okay, like, no one really talked about how important the mental side of things is, you know, and I think for a lot of players, because there's so much talent out there, but at the end of the day, if you don't have the mentality, it honestly doesn't mean nothing. You know, because
no, you're exactly right.
you might get noticed by somebody, but if you're not consistent, if you're not doing the things the coach wants you to do, like, okay, like, you'll never actually really shine, you know?
Yeah, I mean, on top of that, you know, soccer, you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days.
100%.
And it's like one of those things where, you know, you can't get too low and you can't get too high because either one of those is going to kill you. You know, it's about balancing, you know, kind of just not getting a big head when you're doing well, and then also, you know, not like kicking yourself while you're down if you have like a streak of bad games or like bad practices. So there's just like a lot of little details that people kind of miss when they're going through things like that.
Okay, cool.
And I think even like it can, for any level, but just like coming in, like, you know, we talked about high school a little bit, and then if you do academy or club or anything like that, like, you might be the best on your team there, but when you go into a college team, you're playing
totally different story.
Totally, and you might have to be okay with sitting on the bench for the first year, but like mentally that can just affect you, and so being able to have that at your disposal, and just that the fact that they support you is amazing.
Absolutely.
Love that. That's cool. I want to talk a little bit about like how you guys actually got together. Then was it like, Rebecca, did you see him ball out? Did you just see her ball out and you're like, yo, was he as smooth with his words as he was on the ball? Like, how'd that come about?
Well, we can tag team this, but I have to say, so my roommate of all 4 years, her name's Perry Bonner, she definitely had a big influence on us meeting. So freshman year, I actually, like, we both had a girlfriend, boyfriend, or
significant others coming into college.
And so it was just like, I knew of him and it was there, and like my friend Perry, like, was his best friend, and they would always talk, and I'm like, you know, like, yeah. And then sophomore year, we actually moved into their same apartment complex, and it was like, oh, like, this guy is kind of like coming around a little bit more, like, who's this? And so I have to definitely give credit to Perry on a lot of it. But
yeah, I mean, straight up, like, full disclosure, like, my freshman year, I was like big into like working out.
Oh, okay. This is
and
great,
so this is a story we told like
on our
vows at our wedding. So I was like, whatever, I was supposed to say it. And I used to be like a stick, like I was a scrawny dude, like, until I started working out like my senior year of high school. So I was like, oh man, like I was super proud of like, you know, the muscles I was getting and whatnot. And I don't even know, like we were just walking from class, and
me, you, and Hans.
Me, Rebecca, and Hans, the guy who actually like officiated my wedding.
Oh, that's awesome.
My former teammate at Charlotte as
that's
well.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's
full
just
circle.
Incredible.
Yeah, it is.
And I showed her like the picture of like my body transformation of like when I was a stick to like 6 months later, and she just looks at me and is like, "Oh wow, like I'm really proud of you."
First words ever.
First words we've ever said to each other. And I was just like, why did I show him that? And I was like, why did she say that? You know?
It's because he thought I was weird for saying like, oh, I'm so proud of you. But like we said this at our, like we had our vows and everything, and I didn't know what he was going to say. He didn't know what I was going to say. And our vows lined up perfectly to this story. And I'm like, you know, at the end of the day, like you thought I was weird saying that I'm proud of you for like, you know, that it takes a lot of work to like build your muscles and do all that. I was like, but you were showing a stranger your body. What?
Yeah, so I mean, that was odd. But then like after that, we didn't really talk for like a year. And then when they moved into the complex and like I would hang out with Perry, and she obviously lived with Perry, I was like, you know, I definitely had my eye on her. So I was like low key, like kind of scheming, like, yo, like Perry, you want to hang out? Like, just so I could go over and like hang out with Rebecca.
And that's when I was a business major at this time. I quickly swithed that because business is not for me. But we actually had the same accounting class, and I would have it in the afternoon, and he would have it in the morning because of our training schedule. And I did not know accounting at all. So he's like, hey, like, do you need help with your homework? I'm like, yes, like I want to hang out with you, but like I actually need help with my homework. Yes.
Yeah. So I'd say we just started hanging out more after that and getting to know each other, and I guess like seeing how much like we really lined up together and meshed. And and then the rest is we got married.
Yeah. I think my like favorite story to tell about like that he played on the men's team and I played on the women's. I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was either junior year.
It was junior
year.
Yeah.
So obviously like everyone knew we were dating, everything like that, all the coaches, and I think like at the beginning of the season I had like 1 or 2 goals already, and I mean we start earlier than the men's, but Brandt would go to practice and Kev would be like, all right, like if your girlfriend has more goals than you, like drop down and like give me some push-ups. And Brandt
I was like, yo, we might have played 1 game, and I think they played like 4. I mean, granted, like Rebecca had like 3 goals in 4 games, and I was like, she's balling right now.
It didn't last long. He definitely passed me up, but for that little bit, I'm like, yeah, that's me.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, so many stories, but I feel like that's kind of like the foundation of us.
What would you guys say for like couples in college that date athletes? How do you make that work?
I thought about this, and I think it's actually easier for like athletes to date athletes, just because, especially like same sport. Yeah. But in general, like, because we know and we like understand each other's schedules. Because like if like a non-athlete were to date an athlete, it's like, oh well, I have to go do extra training, right? Because I mean, you can never just do the same as everybody else. You always have to do more if you want that step ahead. Mm-hmm. And they're like, why do you have to do that? Like, sometimes they don't understand that you have to put in more work to get better. Whereas like when you date another athlete, they're like, oh yeah, you need to like go to the gym. Like I totally get it, or oh, you need to go like get extra touches. I get it. And I think that's why like dating Rebecca is so easy, because she definitely understands, because I love to like, always put the extra work in. And she's like, maybe you should like slow down a little bit. You might get too tired or like too much.
My favorite thing is I'm like, is it pain or is it soreness?
Yeah.
I think it's soreness. I'm like, okay, don't overdo it.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think it's like a lot easier, especially for us, like to date each other, just because they're like, oh, okay, like I understand you have an away trip. Like you can't just skip that. Yeah. You can't just skip practice.
Why are you leaving me right now? Yeah. I have to go play a game.
Yeah. And then obviously you do that and you tie that along with school. And you're like, okay, like I understand like how much you really have to do, as opposed to like just doing school and then not really anything else, or like maybe like a part-time job or something. So it was like pretty easy for us, just because like we really like understood, how it is being like a student athlete.
So I would take it a step further too, is like understanding success, right? Like relationships, like people that know what it takes to be successful know that there's a grind aspect. Like you have to have a work ethic. Sometimes you're going to do stuff that's not fun, but like you have to do it to get the results, right?
Yeah,
And both of you understood that really well, especially from that athlete's perspective, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Nice.
And I like to use that as like a term of respect. Like you just like respect one each other and like their times. I know like in college, like Brent and I would go out and train, and I had my standard of like, okay, like, maybe I didn't do that as great, so I'm going to stop. And I remember one time I like took my cleats off. I was like, I'm done. Like I'm not running any more sprints. And he's like, no, like you need to do better. Like you're gonna do this next sprint. And so like I was so mad at him. I like had my shoes off. I was like, you gotta be kidding me, I'm barefoot. And he's like, no, one more sprint across the field. And I like did it. But at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, like that made me better. Like if I maybe gave up, like maybe I wouldn't have like passed my fitness test. So it was, it's definitely helpful in that way.
Yeah, like you said, like pushing each other and understanding like what it takes to succeed.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. It's like success understands success, and success breeds success too, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and now it's like transitioned a little bit where I'm not obviously playing soccer active, but once a year, Brandt still gets me out whenever it's like his off season. He's like, all right, like we're going to the fields and you're going to help me train. So even though I don't really play anymore, like that's nice.
So,
to, like,
still get her some touches.
Yeah, still get out there usually December.
Just keeping you sharp just in case, I mean, we only have 4 players, so we may need you.
Yeah.
You never know.
Practice player.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
So after UNC Charlotte, you went into the draft, played at Chicago. Tell us about that. How did that come about? Like,
oh man, it was crazy. Like honestly, everything just happened so quick, and it's in the moment you don't really realize it, but because you're just like going through, you're like thinking like, oh man, like here we go, it's real. So I got invited to the MLS Combine. I did pretty well. I scored like a good goal, which probably had a lot to do with like me getting drafted, honestly. But I got drafted 47th overall, so 3rd round.
Yeah.
And I was like checking my phone. I was like, oh, it's just Chicago, and I was like, oh wow, like I didn't even think like that was gonna happen, So, well, first I didn't go in the first 2 rounds. So you know how they separate the drafts, right?
Yeah.
It's like 1st and 2nd, and then 3rd and 4th a couple of days later. So we went back to my house.
Weekend.
Yeah, that weekend. I flew back from LA. We were at my house watching it with my parents, and we just saw names go by, and I didn't see mine, and I was like, what the heck? I was like, this sucks. At the moment, I was like, I can't believe I didn't get picked. So, then after that, at that night, drove to Charlotte and trained with the college team that weekend. And I remember I was driving to train with them, and my phone just starts blowing up. And I was like, I'm not even watching the 2nd round or the 3rd and 4th round. Like, I was like, I'm just gonna go train, and whatever happens, happens. And then I literally pulled onto campus, and my phone just starts blowing up, and I was like, what the heck's going on? And it said like, oh, Brandt Bronico like drafted 47th to Chicago. And I was just in my phone, I was like, let's go. Like in my car, I was like, let's go. Like, I was like, okay, like Chicago, that's different. I had never been to Chicago in my life. Didn't really know anybody there. So I was like, all right, like we're doing this. And then they called me, and they're like, okay, you got a flight on, this was Sunday. He's like, you got a flight on Tuesday from Charlotte. I was like, all right, let's do it. Like, I can't wait. So I went through preseason with them, and a lot of people don't understand is like a lot of times, especially in MLS, like when you get drafted, you don't get a contract just because you get drafted. It's like a draft is like pretty much a tryout, except for like maybe like 7 to 8 players that sign like Generation Adidas or senior contracts before the combine. So I pretty much got like a tryout with Chicago. I was there for like 3 weeks. I was like every day I was like, come on, like I got this, we can do this. And I did well. Like I did well in preseason and earned like the contract like 3.5 weeks later.
That's
and
awesome.
Preseason was like four and a half weeks. So I was like right on the brink of like, okay, like are they gonna sign me? Like what's going on? So like so relieved. I was like, yes, like I earned it, like I got my opportunity.
What did you notice there? Like I mean, like you went from playing in college to like playing with like professional MLS athletes. What differences? Obviously, the level increases. But what else did you see?
It's like, so the best player that you play against in college is going to be the worst player you play against in MLS. So that was like, I knew it was going to be like a big jump, but I didn't know it was going to be like that big. But I had like kind of prepared. I talked to guys that I knew that played in the league, and they were like, just work hard, put your head down and perform. Like that's all you need to focus on. And so I feel like I over compensate. I was like, okay, everybody's gonna be really good. Like this is how it's gonna be. And I was able to play. Like I was like, just play your game, enjoy it. It's a great opportunity. So you're just trying to like keep your head level, keep your head steady. Like you said, like the mental health. It's like, it's like you just positive affirmations. Like you can do this, you can do this.
I love that. Positive affirmations, because I have some too. I don't think a lot of people talk about stuff like that, I mean, they're talking about it more nowadays, I feel like. But a lot of this stuff is so important, the mental aspect, what you tell yourself. Because, I mean, if you tell yourself you can't do something, you're right.
Right, yeah,
and if
exactly.
you tell yourself that you can, you're also right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's all about
100%.
what goes into your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's just like really just kind of repeating those and, just reaffirming yourself that you can do this, you're here for a reason, so let's make it a good reason.
Nice.
And then, I got loaned out for about 7 games down in Tulsa.
Yeah.
Which was an experience for sure. Obviously, they're doing a lot better now down there, but when I was there, it was something else. It was, I was like, what's going on? But yeah, I mean, we had a great team in Chicago, and I played under a lot of great players, especially Bastian Schweinsteiger.
Yeah.
Like, such a privilege to play with him, and Dax McCarty, probably one of the most underrated midfielders ever to play for USA. So, I mean,
Even now he's still balling at Nashville.
Yeah, he's still balling. I mean, you want to talk about a top-class guy, that's him. I mean, I love Dax, but, I had the privilege of playing with them, and Chicago was, the supporters there are great. Like I told them they're going to do an away day here, and I'm going to introduce them to you guys.
Oh,
so,
perfect.
yeah, they're a great bunch, and they kind of just took me in as their own. And,
Definitely.
developed a lot of great relationships with them.
Well, the good thing is now we have you. It's kind of
Yeah.
like, all right, like we took you.
Yeah. And they always welcomed Rebecca when she would come to games.
Mm-hmm.
So, had a lot of great relationships, great experiences in Chicago. But yeah, that's kind of how my experience started with them.
I love that. Rebecca, what in those changes, I mean, Brandt's going to play in the MLS, like how did you think you impacted him? Like in terms of just the relationship aspects. I know like with athletes, like you have your great days and you have your days that aren't so great. Like how did that kind of change for you?
I think it changed in a different way of now, like I wasn't there. So when he got drafted in January, I still had that semester at Charlotte. So we actually did distance all the way up till December pretty much, because then I went home for grad school. But I think knowing Brandt and knowing how he works on and off the field is what really helped us, because Brandt's someone that he doesn't always necessarily wants to talk about everything that's going on. And so just giving him that space too, like I know he's a super competitive person. So like if something's not going his way, or maybe if you lose, like I know like, okay, maybe give him his space right now. Like don't say anything like too pressing right now. So I think in that aspect it helped. But then I think it also helped because, I mean, and doing distance, like, I mean, it has its ups and downs because we're 12 hours away, and I mean it was only a flight away, but that's money, and we're in college and everything like that. But I feel like for the most part I was very supportive and good with always like trying to come up to all of his games. I remember one time how we were talking about the schedule of like respecting each other's like schedules for athletes. I came up for spring break and he was supposed to be there. Everything was good. I was like, oh, I'm going to be there for a whole week. Like, this is great. And then, like, the night before, he's like, hey, so I'm getting loaned out to Tulsa. And that was, like, the day before I was supposed to go up there. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to cancel my flight. Like, I'm already going. So, like, I went up. One of his teammates picked me up, and I just, like, stayed in his apartment for, like, a few days. And then he, like, came back, and I was able to, like, finish spring break there. But, like, I feel like I was always like pretty supportive about like the travels and the differences. I mean, it sucked at times, but
yeah. It was also nice just because she knows the game, and so she would watch the games, and I'd be like, I text her after, I'm like, what do you think? Like what can I do better? What do you think I did well? What do you think I didn't do well? So, just like always looking forward to her feedback after games, seeing what she saw. Like, because it's different when you're on the field and how you feel, and then when somebody's watching you and how you think
Very
you
true,
did.
yeah.
So I think that's like another aspect on how she helped me is just like what I could adjust and what I could do better on, whereas I might not have that perspective from someone else.
I love that you understood him well as well, like when to give him his space and when to be there.
Yes. I also had to like remember when I'm texting him, like the game's still going on and he's obviously on the field or anything, like he doesn't have his phone, and I would blow his phone up like, oh my god, did this and then this, and like and he would come back and like, oh, like
20 texts.
I'm like, all right, sorry.
Getting the play-by-play after the game.
Yeah. You know how in the MLS, like they talk to the coaches during games. And, like, you're probably like, hey, put Brandt on the phone real quick. I got to tell him something.
I was going to say, put one of those little things in my ears. I'm like, okay, what do I do?
You got somebody coming your left.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, seriously.
Nice. So after Chicago, right, after you're loaned out, you come to Charlotte, right? Third player to sign. The cool thing was, like, none of us saw it coming. Like, well, we really don't know when players are coming.
Yeah.
But, like, it was cool because you got signed, and it was also your wedding day, correct?
Yeah, that's when they announced it.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
Oh my God, that was crazy. Honestly, that was probably the best day of my life. I'm not gonna lie. Like just like seeing it like all official. Because we were trying to get a deal done before like the re-entry draft. Okay. And Charlotte was interested. And Chicago, obviously they were willing to give me up. So just getting that done and like agreeing on terms, and we got it done. I think I had to like opt out of the re-entry like 24 hours before. Ooh. And we got everything signed like probably 30 minutes before that 24-hour period.
Yes.
So I was like, thank God, like, because I called my agent when Chicago declined me. I was like, let's see if like Charlotte's interested, because I was like, if Charlotte's interested, like that's my first go-to, like that's where I want to be. And he was like, okay. We called, and I think I was like, I forgot where I was, but he called me back, and we might have been like taste testing like the food for the wedding or something. He calls me back. He's like, okay, like Charlotte's interested, and I was like, all right, let's do it. Like, I'm in. I don't care about anything else. Like, let's get Charlotte done.
I love that.
So we were able to get that done, and then when they announced it, like phones blowing up on the wedding day, like I'm trying to like get ready and like respond to people, and I was like, you know what, like just put the phone down. I put out like a couple of tweets, you know, and I was like, put the phone down, like we got to focus on this, and I'll get back to everybody like after the weekend. So like just seeing that and like having like my family there and Rebecca's family there and all my friends there to like share that moment with, like for the wedding and coming back to Charlotte, because I would say like half the people at the wedding were probably from Charlotte.
Yeah.
Like
That's awesome.
Yeah, because it was down in New Orleans, and like all my friends are here, so just having like everybody there.
It's like your two loves collide, right?
Yeah.
Like your wedding day and the sport that you grew up loving,
exactly.
right?
You know, and like it's one of those things you don't really realize in the moment, but then you look back on it and you're like, holy crap, like that, you know, that was amazing. And I know like Rebecca and I spoke about it, and she wanted to come back to Charlotte as well. And I was like, all right, like we're going to make it happen. And fortunately, like we did, you know. I'm so grateful for the guys at Charlotte FC, like in the front office that, you know, obviously believed in me and brought me in. And it's obviously, you know, an honor and a privilege to be, you know, the third player ever to sign for the club.
History maker.
So hopefully, you know, we can make a lot more history.
And you had 24 hours. I've seen some of those MLS contracts, man. Like they like are right there with mortgage paperwork when you fill it out, right?
Yeah, it was like 20 pages, bro.
So when you get that house, you'll already be used to signing.
Oh my God.
Got it.
Nice. That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about the mindset that you need to have to get to the highest level, right? Because I think it's important to have talent, and we talked a little bit about the mindset, but let me rephrase that, not the mindset, but like the things that you shouldn't do. Because I feel like people understand that they have to work hard, but sometimes you let that get to your head, right? Like if you're an academy player and people are noticing you, like you may let that get to your head, you know, like people know who you are now. How do you tackle that?
I think it kind of just goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier about not getting too low and not getting too high on your bad and good days. But I think the most important thing is that you have to believe in yourself, because there's going to be a lot of times when you're going to have bad days, like straight up. You might have a bad week. You might have a bad month. And if you just like let that doubt and fear creep in, then you've pretty much already defeated yourself before you even gave yourself a chance to step on the field.
That's good.
So I think like just being your biggest fan and bringing yourself up, like I said, like the positive affirmations. That is the number one biggest thing I think that players need to realize, and not like from like a cocky standpoint, like, oh, I'm the best, but like from like a kind of like a worker's standpoint, like, you know, like I have a goal and I'm going to achieve this goal no matter what. You know,
good.
There's going to be roadblocks. I know that, but I'm still going to achieve the goal. I'm going to have bad days. I know that. I'm going to have good days. I know that. But not letting those like temporary moments get in the way of like what you ultimately want to achieve.
I love that. I kind of call it like the you versus you mentality.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, honestly, exactly. It's pretty much you versus you every day, and you got to believe in yourself, because nobody else is going to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself.
100%.
Right? So I think that's like the number one thing, and obviously, like I said, you have to do more than everybody else. You can't do the same thing as everybody else and expect to be better. You know? So
good, yeah.
Put in extra time, you know, whatever you think you need to do, you know, maybe seek, you know, advice from players that have done it, putting extra time in the gym if you need to do that, getting extra touches, working on your technique, you know, like always, like pretty much being like a workaholic to an extent of like building your craft and going after your goal, you know, just like relentlessly. I think those are like, you know, the biggest two things that you need to succeed. You know, I've liked to read those, you know, like motivational books, you know, like Steps to Success or 7 Habits of like Highly Effective People, you know, all that sort of stuff, like the mindset, the motivation manifesto, like it all just gets me going.
Yeah, I love that.
So I just like kind of absorb that, and I'm just like, let's do it. Like, let's go.
And a lot of what you're talking about too is like that extra mile, right? Like
Yeah.
most people aren't going to be there, but the ones that are there just win at the highest level.
Right, and especially on days where you don't really feel like doing it.
100%.
You know, those are like the difference days, I like to call them.
Yeah.
Because that's going to make the difference if it's going to be you or if it's going to be somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, so especially putting the extra work in on days where like you might be a little too sore, or like you might feel like you're a little too tired. There's like another quote where it's like, nobody's ever regretted a workout that they did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've always regretted
That's
workouts
good.
that they haven't done.
Yeah.
But you've never regretted a workout that you have done. So I think I'm like, wow, you know, that's actually, I thought about that. I'm like, that's actually kind of true.
Yeah.
Especially on days where you're like, oh, man, like, I don't know. But then you go and you're like, oh, I feel good actually.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it. So I always kind of keep that in the back of my head. But I feel like, you know, believing is the biggest thing.
I love that. I think that is really good. One thing that I think about too is like, okay, like it's hard to go from failure to success, but I feel like it's even harder to go from success to continue at that high level of success, right?
Yeah, kind of that consistent success,
Yeah.
you know, and building on top of that success. Well, yeah, definitely hard.
Nice. Speaking of success then, and this is my last question for both of you guys, is what has soccer taught you guys about success?
I think, I mean, it's for me, I think it's taught me a lot, just like to look at like what I've been able to do over my 26 years of because of soccer. I mean, I remember like the day after we got engaged, like John Cullen, the head coach for Charlotte, he like texted me saying congrats, all this stuff, and I remember like the message I sent back to him was just like, thank you though for like this opportunity, because like if you never recruited me to come to Charlotte, like I wouldn't have met Brandt, wouldn't have my friends in my life that I have that are from Charlotte. And so for me, it's just like, I guess it's a different way of success, of more of like what soccer has provided for my life.
I think that's important too. I mean, like you understand like the being grateful, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people lose that. I mean, like I come from a country in Central America where like people don't really have the opportunity. I mean, they can't do stuff like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
And like just that gratitude aspect, I love that.
Mm-hmm. And now I'm kind of on a different like path of, you know, I've been the athlete my whole life, and now I had the chance to go back home to go to grad school, and I remember telling my mom, I'm never leaving Charlotte. And then Brent got drafted, I'm like, ooh, like in-state tuition, okay, I'm gonna go home. So I went home and I just finished grad school in December with my mental health
Congratulations.
Thank you, degree. And so now like I want to kind of change paths of, obviously I'm not the athlete anymore, but I want to work with athletes and on the mindset of everything like that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and I think if I didn't have soccer, like I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. And so I'm very grateful for soccer and everyone that's came into my life through the sport. So
Yeah, I mean, definitely what Rebecca said and what you said, you know, being grateful for every opportunity. Because one thing, I'll go over two things, but one thing I learned last year, especially in COVID, is like never taking a training session for granted, never taking a weight room session for granted, because it can be taken away like that. You know, snap of a finger. A virus comes in, and then you can't train in a competitive environment anymore.
So true, man.
You got to get locked in the house, and you're like, shoot, you know, there's days where like I complained about like training, you know, and now I'm like, it's kind of opened my eyes to being like, I get to train. It's kind of like I get to do this as opposed to like I have to do this.
Yeah.
You know, it's that get to attitude. So that opened my eyes for one, and then always like you always get out what you put in, you know. So
good.
You always get back. All like kind of building on what I said earlier is like you're putting the work in, but you're gonna reap the rewards. It's kind of like planting the seed. So really the work that you're doing today, although you're not seeing like immediate results, you will get the results down the line at some point, right? If we just believe, and then we will know that it's going to happen. So just kind of having that in the back of your head, like, oh, okay, the work I do today, like I'll reap the rewards some point in the future. Like I know I will, but let's just do it today.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like, you know, brick by brick, you know, every single day, let's put the work in, and then, you know, at the end of the time, you know, you have a whole cathedral, right? You keep stacking those bricks.
I've never heard that.
I actually, you know, the brick, I got that from Kevin Langan.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can't take credit for that one, but that one stuck in my head from college. But yeah, you know, stacking those bricks every day, putting in the work every day, and then at the end of it, you have your cathedral. So dealing with the day-to-day is like the biggest thing, knowing that you'll reap the rewards at some point down the road.
I love that. That's so good. I heard a similar analogy. Is like it takes like 72 hours to build a Corolla, but it takes like 6 months to build a Rolls Royce.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
I've seen that. I like that one.
Right. So I mean, similar thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you're building quality over just quantity.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many analogies for it, and I feel like there's this many analogies, something's got to be true about it, right? No, there's no way that so many people are saying this and then they're just like talking out, whatever. But yeah.
Nice. Well, one thing I can say from just being part of the Charlotte culture and the Charlotte fan base, both you, Brandt, and Rebecca are doing such a great job. Like we just appreciate, especially because we don't really have a team just yet, just appreciate everything that you guys do, how accessible you are, how you are willing to talk to the fans. And I mean, that to me will stick with me no matter who we bring in, right? It's like I was telling the whole fan base, it's like, we're kind of like rooting for you a little bit more. Like we'll scream your goals more because just of the people that you are. And so we really appreciate that. And just from a gratitude perspective, like, thank you guys.
Hey, no, yeah, of course. Like, I mean, for one, Rebecca's probably the nicest person you'll ever meet.
She is.
Yeah. And for two, it was kind of going what we talked about earlier, I feel like without the supporters in the stadium, especially during COVID, there's this, it's lifeless.
Yeah.
There's no soul to the games. And that kind of opened my eyes even more, being like how important like the supporters and the fans are of, for any club and any sporting event. And for me personally, like I always like to get to know, the supporters well because you guys, I mean, you're the people that drive the club.
Yeah.
I love y'all's passion. I feel it inside myself as well because I want to win really bad, and I know you guys want us to win really bad, and I like to be around people that want to win really bad.
I love that.
But yeah, no, it's been great, especially for both Rebecca and I, being able to talk to you guys and hang out with you guys and get to know you, like from a greater standpoint than just like a player and a supporter, but as like from person to person.
100%.
I think that's so important, and we're grateful that we're able to do that with you guys, and especially in Charlotte.
Yeah.
And so we're looking forward to 2022.
Nice. The Queen City.
Yeah.
Love it.
I love it. We love it.
Awesome. Well, this concludes another episode of the Golden Boots podcast. Guys, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We had a blast.